Hey everyone, for the majority of you who don't know me, my name is Aaron. I am currently finishing up the 24-week data science bootcamp at Northwestern, and have also been doing a couple of freelance pieces here and there on the side. So today I'm going to be talking about a few key principles about starting your Python journey, or principles that can help facilitate your learning journey. We all know that in this industry, you have to be a lifelong learner. So can I get a show of hands of people who are in the early stages of learning Python? All right, that's quite a few of you. So this talk will be mostly geared towards you all, and everybody else, just take what you want. So a bit of background on myself. Up until a year ago, I hated programming. I did everything in my power during my undergrad to avoid programming as a math major. I didn't even want to touch MATLAB. After working for 5 years in education, I found that in order to achieve the lifestyle that I want, learning to program was going to be my best bet. And at this point, programming was just a means to an end. One thing that did help me from my past experience was understanding how to learn. I was very involved in progressive learning philosophies and project-based learning. And there are several key principles that I learned that I would like to share with you guys during this time. The first principle is to know your why. Know why you're going down this path in the first place. Is it for the freedom? Is it for the money? Is it fear of missing out on something? Looking at you, data scientists, future data scientists. Whatever the reason, always be clear on your why. For me, I desired a flexible work-life balance and to be able to reduce stress in my life as much as possible, and I believed programming held the keys to that. I also kind of believe that the laziest people get into programming because we want to make everything easier. We want to automate tasks, and we want to make sure we get the most bang for our buck. But on occasion, we may be working harder trying to figure out how to automate things versus getting it done, but that's probably for another talk. So the second principle is to begin as soon as possible. I spent about 2 months on data camp learning the foundations of Python. I got comfortable with the basic syntax, loops, basic data structures, and pandas. Then after that, I just started building. First of all, project-based learning is a learning methodology where the learning takes place through applying your knowledge and skills through an engaging experience. This is contrasted by the more passive version of learning through the whole point-and-click lessons that you might find on courses online. And I feel like I need to preface what is not project-based learning. It's easy to watch a YouTube tutorial and follow step by step, and voila. You just made an unsupervised machine learning classification model with the iris dataset. Now you can put machine learning on your resume. No, that is not how it works. In the industry, you're going to be given problems to solve that you may not know the answers to. There will probably not be a YouTube video or article outlining step-by-step instructions on how to solve your particular business case. Also, project-based learning is super important for people who are trying to break through that hiring paradox. The whole needing to get experience to get a job and needing a job to get experience. The thing is, employers value credibility and trust. How can they trust you with their product or business? Is it through diplomas, certifications, boot camps? No, it's through experience. Granted, some of the aforementioned do offer some degree of experience, but the more real world, the better. The next principle is to select a problem. And this is one of two ways to tackle project-based learning. Most people recommend you find a project you're passionate about. or a problem you want to solve. This is backed by the idea that it will cultivate more motivation and interest in the learner. But then sometimes you get pushback from people who claim they have no interest in anything at all. So one of my passions is food. And after doing a project with Yelp API, I wasn't really sure what I might work on next. And this brings us to the next option. The second way you might want to tackle a project is to come up with skills you want to work with. A lot of the time, I'll come across packages that I want to learn more about and surround my project around that idea. For example, using Selenium for web scraping, or perhaps building and connecting to cloud databases, or perhaps practicing different models with the sklearn package. So the next principle is to not focus on perfection. You should be focusing on practice. And there are two ends to this spectrum. There are people who will want to spend an entire year on a project trying to reach perfection. And then on the other end, there are people that will be starting a new project every single day. And so it's really important to know when to close out a project. There may be some challenges that may seem insurmountable, but you need to make sure you deplete all your resources before you close out. Google obsessively, use Stack Overflow, reach out to the Chipy Slack, or email people you've seen write blogs about similar problems that you're facing. Another key part of this is the practice. It's important to practice a little bit each day, or as often as you can, rather than doing several hours in a day and then not touch it for several days after. Just remember that learning can be compounded. Improving 1% every day for 10 days straight is better than trying to improve 10% all at once and forget to keep up afterwards. And the last principle that I think is really important for learning, getting into Python, is to teach. And Chipy has a great mentorship program that I'm proud to be a part of. And as an educator, I cannot emphasize enough how valuable teaching is. Being able to explain the ins and outs of a concept really gives you a deep understanding of that concept. It points out the gaps in your knowledge as well. If you can't break down a concept well enough to explain it to another person, you probably don't know it well enough. And you don't have to think you need to be an expert to start teaching. I certainly am not, and they have me as a mentor with Chipy. It's all about finding someone who's curious about Python and programming, and just start explaining like loops or dictionaries or even just variables. And that'll help solidify your learning in Python a lot more. So if you're just starting out your Python journey or looking for ways to boost your next learning experience, I hope some of these principles can help reinforce your journey, and you all should consider joining the mentorship program, this next cohort, as either a mentor or a mentee. Thank you. All right, thanks a lot, Aaron. Does anyone have any questions? Patrick?
Great talk, Aaron. If I had questions about being a mentor, could I come find you later?
Sure. Questions about being a mentor, definitely. If you want to sign up, I'm sure our mentorship coordinator can also do that.
Could I come talk to you?
Yeah, definitely. Right. Any other questions? Oh, in the back.
Real briefly, I appreciate you bringing pedagogical principles to programming. I've not seen that before. That's really cool. You mentioned, the dichotomy of perfectionism versus constantly starting a new project and going kind of full on wheels into too many projects. I raised my hand both times, right? So how do you know when you're done, or how do you know when to start something new?
It really depends on the phase in your learning journey. I think in the beginning, doing as many iterations as possible is incredibly important. But I think once you get towards that intermediate stage, when you're talking to your different mentors or be able to hack away with different resources, and the hump isn't as big as you might think it is. And I mean, it's not like a black or white way to distinguish when or when not to close down a project, but especially in a professional setting, like that's sometimes it's not going to be an option. So the further along in your journey, the less of that I think I would do.
Any other questions? Yeah. How would you recommend getting a job as a data scientist when you're starting out?
Depends on what route you're trying to go. If you're doing a boot camp or you're trying to get your master's degree, but the most important thing is get as much real world experience as possible. So building up a portfolio and then being able to market that to either potential employers or trying to get freelance contract work as soon as possible. The more real work that you can get, the better prepared you will be for a data science job.
Any other questions? Okay. Thanks a lot, Aaron.